Welcome to our session on embodying the upper limbs and into the core, into upper core. So the upper core that we're going to look at is primarily heart and how our upper limbs are expressions of heart and how our upper limbs also give support to heart. Of course, when we're talking about anything that's supporting to core, it supports also to the full length. So there's no kind of arm support, go into to heart, and that's it, and we differentiate there. We really can't, we don't, but we can say that the arms will support very specifically and closely to heart. Now, as we know, as we look so often in embodied anatomy, we're not really only looking at structure and form as we know it, but we're looking at structure and form plus its deep history. So we look at its consciousness, the field of consciousness from which it comes, its own differentiation of consciousness, how it is different from the lower limbs, for example, in this case. Um, we look at its relationship, as I said, to the other aspects of our form, and we look very specifically at how it grows and comes into its own its function that assists the, the whole being of us. So wherever we go in, whatever aspect we look at as we're practicing embodied anatomy, which can't really be separated from embodied movement, because in embodied anatomy, we're studying alive structures, and everything that is alive moves. So as soon as we say it's alive, we know it's moving, right? So we have an embodied anatomy and movement, and in this case, of the upper limbs. So where do we start with that? I think what we'll do, just so you have an idea of how we're going to do it, we're going to go through. Those of you who are present here live are familiar, most of you probably, are familiar with the bony connections that we find from our hands all the way through our shoulder girdle and then also into the ribs. So it comes from the development of the embryological development of shape. When our hands and arms were growing, they were coming right from the center here, and they have similar cells, right? They were right there all together. And then they stretch out, literally, and they continue to move, and they still have affinities for the tissues from which they came. This is very, very important in terms of movement. The theory being, and the embodied experience that is my experience, and if you like, you can see if it is also your experience. The embodied experience is that the underlying developmental movement of growth that created a limb is the same. It is the underlying and always present chronic movement of health in that limb. So it's the basic. If we go under all of the bones and muscles and all of the other things that we look at when we're working with the complication of shoulder joints, for example, if we go under and find the embryological and the pranic, the same thing, underpinnings of flow, we have a really good chance at being able to get out into a more structural experience of health, right? So often, especially with the upper limbs, so often we'll kind of take them apart and we'll say, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with taking them apart. We want to know what all the muscles are." Some of us want to. I want to. We want to know, but then we want to know, we want to differentiate so that we can then unify, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to begin with that kind of differentiation. We're going to look at the bones and the muscles and how these hands that grew from way up here once upon a time, how each one of the fingers actually correlates with a place on the shoulder blade that is unified in its force, and also with the ribs unified in its force. So we're going to look at these correlations, and then we'll look at them basically, we'll go over them together and kind of outline them the best we can on our own bodies. If you happen to have an anatomy book around there where you can open up a page to a scapula, it could be really helpful. I actually thought I had a scapula bone here in my stuff, but as you know, I moved and I genuinely gave up most of my anatomy tools. I do have an arm. So if you feel it might be useful to you to have a picture, go get one. Great, that's perfect. That makes life a lot easier if you can have that with you. So taking a moment. And somewhere in those pages where you're going to come up with a picture, you'll see the scapula from its back view, where it cups onto your back, right? Your scapula right on your back. You'll see the back view of it. Yes. And then you'll see the inside cup view of it. Now, if you're not using an image, or even if you are using an image, I'd like you to also use your hands. So if you take your hands like this with me, and imagine this is your scapula cupping onto your back on this side, and this is your scapula cupping onto your back on that side, right? You're with me so far. And this would be the back of your scapula, the back of the bone. Scapula is your shoulder blade. This would be the back of it, and this is the underside. Okay? Now, soften that off a little bit. We are going to use our hands to feel this. But I'd like for you first to just rest your hands down on your thighs. And as we sometimes do, those kind of kitty cat squishing movements, it's a sponging kind of pulsing here. These are great diaphragms for movement. You know, they're kind of soft and mobile. So you feel those and you do them on your thighs here. Uh, in California, when I was young, we had abalones. And abalones filled a shell with this, you know, this muscle inside the shell. And the abalone inside of the shell is like alive and squishy. And when I imagine, notice, and feel the underside of my scapula on my back, I imagine it to have this kind of ability in there, like that muscle of the abalone had to pulse. So this is my scapula, and the soft tissue in there is the muscle, and it's pulsing. And when it pulses, it stabilizes on my back. So now, not just pulsing your hands, first you could do it on your legs, as I said, so that you have some tissue to work with. You feel? And then, and as you do that, Pulse the muscle underneath your scapulae on your back. So you're going, you feel? There's a lot of room for movement in there. Your scapulae, woo! Your scapulae, I'm not even sure if that's the word. Scapulas, I know it is not. They can really do stuff back there. Can you feel that? How many options you have? So it isn't just, yeah, we got to get out of this idea that everything is just forward, back, side, twist, twist. It's like, it's so freaking messy. Do you understand? That's why we've linearized our bodies so much, because it's honestly so freaking messy. And in its messiness, it is functional and beautiful. So get in there with the grittiness, the funkiness of a big muscle that is its own alive creature on your back. I feel like I know a lot of you, you know, so I feel quite free right now to kind of be myself and let you know that it's not just humanity that I think is afraid of themselves and wants to linearize. It's me, it's you, it's all of us. It takes a lot of bravery to say, I just don't know, and neither does anyone else. Whoa. But I can feel, right? I can get in the game here. So that's what we're doing. We're getting in this game. And right now you're in the subscapularis and whatever other tissue is in there. That's what the anatomists say. There's no subscapularis in there. Okay, fine. So there is. All right. That pulses on your back. Now, imagine that, and then take your hands like this and feel for the ridge here where the ball of your hand turns to your wrist. And imagine that ridge as the inner edge of your scapula on your back, that inner seam of the scapulae that are right next to the spine, and feel them here and pulse them on your back and in toward the center. You feel how that's a different movement now than when you're just rippling the back of your scapula the whole way. Yes? Now, just parenthetically, because we won't be using this a lot, the small finger and the ring finger relate to the bottom angle of the scapula. That's your ring finger. I'm hoping you have your anatomy book, or else you know this stuff like the back of your hand. Bottom angle of the scapula, and this ring finger over here to the axial border. So that's the border back there that comes all the way up your sides, up toward your arm bone, up toward your arm, right? Now here's where it gets fun. Your middle finger relates around the front and all the way into the joint. So if you're looking at that picture where you have the fossa for your arm bone there, the scapula cups right around the top of the arm bone. This is your middle finger. So we have these relationships, and what we're going to find in movement is that they are profoundly stabilizing to our weight bearing and our reaching, weight bearing and reaching for things under beds, right? Okay. Middle finger, pulse, middle finger and arm pulses into shoulder joint. Take it down a little, Karen. So not even up here, but take it down and then pulse it in. And you weren't doing this, you weren't jamming it up into here, but somebody might. If you try to pulse it in there, there's a chance you're going to jam it up into the acromion process. If you go down here, you're going to pulse it right into the fossa there. All right? Now, here's where the spine of the scapula. So if you don't have a picture, take your hands around, and you're very familiar with this. It's the big ridge here along the scapula on the two sides. In fact, you know, when you're a kid and you don't know a lot about the bones, you say that's my shoulder blade. You kind of think it is your shoulder blade, right? The spine of your scapula there, right? Now, this, if you take your hand on the spine of the scapula and trace it around, so it's the bump, it's simple, it's the bump. Keep tracing it around, and you get up to the top here, and you keep coming around, it's going to start to join there. There's a joint. The scapula joints with the collarbone. Oh, it's flat. How'd it get flat there? Oh, I don't know. But there's a joint. And the joint, feel it. You feel, you don't need to know a thing. You feel in there and there's spaces. You move a little bit and you say, oh my God, things are moving. Where things are moving, there are joints. Okay, that's a joint. And that joint, as you come around, becomes this bone, your collarbone, and follow the collarbone with its beautiful, graceful arch. Why? Why in the world did God make collarbones so beautiful? Was that really necessary? It's awfully beautiful. And it comes all the way around here, and then it joins. If you go to the big knob, the big knob here, it joints right onto your sternum, the manubrium, the very top of the three bones here that make your sternum. Have you got it? Good. So that's the pointing finger. Now here comes one of the really spectacular ones as well, and that's your thumb. Now go back to the scapula here. Go back to the spine of the scapula, right? I'm not showing you very well. Go to the spine of the scapula and then go in. If there's this big, deep, it's a fossa, a cavity there, like a riverbed, and it's full of a big muscle. And that big muscle, oh, that can give you, you know, trouble. It can also make you happier. That big muscle comes around and all the way, it's the supraspinatus. It comes all the way and it ends up going right to the top of the humerus, right to the top of the humerus. So when it shortens, it does this for us, right? That's what it does. Now, energetically, the spine, the fossa here, within which the supraspinatus is flowing, within which the supraspinatus is flowing, the language is important. The fossa is continuous with, not energetically, structurally. The fossa is continuous with the protuberance of the scapula that comes into the front body. So we've got scapula, the bone is cupped on your back, and you've got a protuberance of that bone that is on your back that comes all the way through to your front body, and it's called the coracoid process. And it's right about here. You'll find it. It's not your arm, right? When you feel for your arm bone is just this round knob, right? The protuberance here is pokey outy. Coracoid, the name means a beak, a crow's beak. It's pointy. And what attaches to it? This is important when we're bearing weight. The pectoralis. Well, these pecs. Now do this with me. So take your hand and go stabilize that stuff on your back, and then simultaneously, as you feel your thumb, stabilize these muscles through the front, and imagine that thumb like a beak pulsing forward. Hmm? Now, what I'm hoping that you might be feeling as you do this is an activation of the tissues that are working here. That's all. You're not trying to learn, oh dear, the this and the this and the this and the this. It may be better that we don't even have I don't have a scapula for you to show you. It may be better. It's this. It's in you. And your thumb is relating to this front portion of your shoulder blade. Okay, let's just outline that on the other side because I don't think you probably did both sides at the same time. So let's just review a little bit. The small finger is going to relate way in the back to the very bottom corner that's pointing down your back of your scapula on that side. Your ring finger relates to the axial border. So the V coming up there, the axial border, that's the ring finger. And then we start to get into these very important three fingers, the middle, the pointing, and the thumb for supporting ourselves in weight bearing. And that is the middle finger is the joint. So don't take your arm up too high so that you might jam it into the acromion process up there. People do that. So you want to be careful. You want to keep the arm right into the side of the scapula, right in there, pulsing it in, middle finger. And then ring finger, find the spine of the scapula again, pointer, spine of the scapula. Come around up here because it's pretty interesting actually how it feels there and how you've had these bones your whole life and probably you've never really touched much to figure out where's the joint? Is that continuous with my shoulder blade? How did this happen? What's going on there? And then what I always say is, why is this so pretty? The best thing about going, to parties is if people wear low cut things, I get to look at their scapulae. I just love it. Okay, so you feel that move? Okay, so keep going. Find the flat. Oh, there's the joint part. And now it's coming around, and now I'm getting into the collarbone, which is also a little bit flat there, and then comes around spinning. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Oh, nice big knob. We're all very different. For some reason, I have very big knobs there. And many people, Karen has little small knobs. I remember. I have these big honking knobs. And then you go right under, and that's going to be the manubrium. Now, right here, let's go back to the other side to the knob and place your finger under there and feel you go down the bone and then there's a flat bone under it, right? You feel that, just general. You don't have to be too specific. You go down and around that bone, and if you pulse in, don't poke. Just pulse in a little bit. You feel, well, there is something squishy in there. That's squishy. All right. That's a disc. That's the disc that gives you all of this beautiful mobility so that your collarbone can do almost anything it wants on the manubrium. And your collarbone is connecting here with the shoulder blade. So this is considered to be part of the shoulder girdle, your shoulder blade, collarbone, right? And then it joints. The shoulder blade joints with your arm. This mobility is in the shoulder girdle. And as we know, support precedes mobility. So you don't want to be overly mobile and flexible if you don't already have good support. Let's do that on the other side. So you take your finger under and you find that movement. Don't push hard on it because sometimes people will push so hard that they'll turn their shoulder blade and get a, you know, in there, get it stuck somehow. You want to nurture the free movement. You don't want to force it. How do you reach your arms up? Well, look what your collarbone does to reach your arms up. It goes way up. Whoever got this big idea that you keep your arms down, your shoulders down, then you raise your arm? That's going to be hard. In fact, it may well jam the top of your arm right up into the acromion process. However, if you let the shoulder blade swing as you raise your arm, you'll be in pretty good shape. You feel the difference? Let the shoulder blade swing to support the raising arm. Let's do the other side. So just play with, what if I just stabilize and lift? I can do it if I'm careful. I can do it. It's okay. But what if I let the shoulder blade, even if it's just a little bit, swing? Feel how much further that goes through your whole body. Again, this is the linear way of thinking that we're getting out of, where we think, okay, if I stabilize here and I stabilize here and I've got my core strength, then I can do this. It's like, really? It's just not designed like that. It's much more complex than that. It's much more unified. Swing the whole thing. If you want to differentiate, go ahead and play with it the other way. But if you want to live to be 90 with a body that doesn't hurt, you might want to do it differently. It's too late for me. That's why I messed everything up so that I could tell you what not to do. All right, so okay, that's one. Let's do this support in movement, and then we're going to come back and bring in the embryological spiral, which is actually under it, because the embryological spiral is what softens and organizes it all. So right now we're still on the process of the differentiation, and as we bring in those spirals, then we're really heading deeper and deeper and into the unity of it. All right? And I didn't even bring in the ribs yet. I want to. But let's do this first, because I don't want you to have to sit anymore without moving, basically. That's the only reason. Otherwise, as you know, I would be happy to keep talking. All right. So here and pulsing, shoulder blades on back, Not just your hands. Please be very sure that you're not just doing an isolated thing in your hand. There I am, isolated thing in my hand. Instead, I'm going, it's in my back as well. That's you. This stuff ends up being in your whole body. You start where you are, okay? That's shoulder blades on back. Good. Now, thumb. Thumb coming around and down to the pectoralis here, shoulder blade on back, and pectoralis toning the shoulder blade from the front. So you pulse from the back, and the pectoralis pulses from the front, and it's actually grabbing the front of the scapula and drawing it forward on your back, right to the front. So you've got the pectoralis working in conjunction with the subscapularis, very specifically this, and this. All right, that's stable. That's stability. Now, part of what is mobility is this pointing finger in the collarbone. So, stable on the back, stable in the front, pulsing pectoralis, and then mobile with the pointing finger in the collarbone. Very important, these three, because we have the joints stabilized in by the middle finger, palm, thumb, and kind of the the Shakti of it, the dancing aspect of the Nataraj, collarbones. All right, rest your arms, rest your hands, and breathe. Do nothing, just feel whatever is in there right now. All right, placing your hands on the floor. So placing one hand and the other, not too far out, just comfortable distance out in front of you. And as you need the thumb and the underside here, thumb and the underside of your hand, shoulder blade on your back, underside of hand, thumb pulsing, pectoralis in the front, thumb, pointing finger stabilizing collarbones into manubrium. Now I'm saying stabilize now rather than mobilize because we're going to bear some weight on them. All right, I'm taking my hands a little bit further forward so I can be on hands and knees, right? Thumb, pectoralis, pulsing. I'll go this way. Pectoralis, pulsing. Palm, shoulder blade on back. Middle finger into the ground, pulsing, and the arm bones right in toward the shoulder blades, not up, but the shoulder blades. And then ring finger, small finger, the wide and the down of the shoulder blades on my back. Inhale, turn your toes under and push with your hands to rock back. So your hips just come back over your heels. And then bend your elbows. Because if you don't bend your elbows and you just rock over your wrist, do it with me. If you don't bend your elbows and you just rock out over your wrists, dollars to donuts, you lost the connection. And you can figure out why that happens. But note that it's happening. I think it's happening. I suppose it could be possible. Nope. I don't think you can avoid it without bending the elbows. All right. Now back again and plant them and pulse them. When you pulse your hands, be sure to take it all the way through the shoulder girdle and these aspects. Thumb, pointing finger, middle finger, the front and sides. And then rock forward to hands and knees with elbows bent and keep that pulsing push. Turn your toes under, yes, downward dog. Turn your toes under, make the connection, don't lose it. Feel what you're doing, and then push, yielding deep into the earth. Push and keep the connectivity fully through your hands, deep into the earth, spiraling up through your arms. That's how they get there. Spiraling up through your arms into the joint, middle finger, thumb into the front body, pointing fingers, collarbones to the manubrium and the ribs. The shoulder blades on your back are not doing the primary lifting here. Shoulder blades on your back are a little bit slidey. They're a little slidey, right? The big lifting in this downward dog, the big support is through that top front quadrant of your shoulder girdle there, the top lobe long portion of the shoulder girdle. All right, as you're inhaling, come back down and notice, don't you have to bend your elbows to stay connected? Do you or not? And then down and rest. All right, let's bring the same thing into downward dog, plank, knees, chest, chin, and then cobra. So instead of just going into it, how about you somaticize the movements before we go? So that means marking in your body mind right now this connectivity of these three fingers with the front, the joint here, and the top. Front, the joint, and the top of the back, right? And then just this soft resilience in the pads. Not too worried about the small fingers right now. If you have the bandwidth to incorporate all of it, please go ahead and do so. But right now, because we are face down, we are front body down, basically, it's the front of the shoulder girdle we're attending to. All right, so here we go. Place again. Now place onto one and lean on it. And when you lean into the ground and you push into the ground, follow the force up through where you want it to be. And then do the other one and lean on it. There you go, all the way down. Follow the force up. Keep the support all the way up where you want it to be. And then you'll come to both. Inhale. I'm going to just step my legs back. Oh no, downward dog, I forgot. Turn your toes under, yield, push down, rise up, Now you can afford to find a little levity here, right? Because you don't want just to be going down. First of all, the discs are light. That means right there at the collarbones, right there at the tops of the collarbones, you have a lot of levity. And then way up there at the end of your spine is your coccyx, and you can reach it away. Feel the differentiation here of the stability and support you're offering here with the upper portion, your shoulder girdle, the front top, the top side, and the top back, shoulder girdle, downward facing dog. All right, here we go. Now you're going to slip into plank. All right, so that means you're slipping through and the supports are changing as you go. It's not one position then another. The supports are rippling through. Here it comes. Nice and easy. Steady. Thumb, pointing finger, middle finger. Can you do this without hardening your heart? Right? It's like hardening our organ gut, you know, when we're working hot, strong in the lower body. Don't harden your heart. It doesn't need to do this lifting. That's not its job. Now let's go. Knees, chest, chin. Take the knees down. Wait for it. Take a big breath in. Now, to get down to knees, chest, chin, well, you're going to have to use those supports, especially in the front. So don't be in a hurry. Take your time going down. Find those supports all the way through, sternum right between the hands, chin on the floor, tail up. Kitty cat pulses. Point your toes away. Now you can come up as high, a little or a lot, in your cobra. Point your toes away. Inhale, snake through, and rise. So a certain amount of this is the chest rising, of course, but let's use the hands. As you use your hands, where do they support? Now, in this particular case, you do have a lot of cupping of your shoulder blades on your back. That's true. And yet they're not the place that is holding your chest up. Your chest is being held up both from inside deep core and from the thumb, the pointing finger, the middle finger, the top front chest, the top chest, and the top back, shoulder girdle. Here we go. Inhale, push down, rise up, come up, come up. Use that strength and connectivity, and then downward dog or child's posture, your choice. Good. Now let's add something to this. So that's just, the basic weight bearing torso down, and that applies in so many of those postures, right? So very many. Bakasana, handstand, Pinchamayurasana, dolphin, obviously, headstand for that matter. All right, so I want to bring in the ribs. So it's not just up here, because that would be very isolated, but the upper limbs also in our embodiment include our ribs. Our ribs actually grow from the center, from the spine, actually. But when we use them in our lives, we use them as part of our peripheral structure. We help our reach through our ribs. We stabilize our reach into the body. When we reach for something and we want to bring it back, we're going to start from we're going to start from the supportive level, which is going to be closer to center. So if you extend out and you reach, now if you don't stabilize here in the ribs, then how are you going to get something back? How are you going to get it back? I would stabilize here and then bring it back to me. What would you do? I reach, I let myself go out of myself a little bit, but even that, support precedes the action. I'm stable here. Otherwise, I give up everything. No, I'm not going to abdicate completely. I've got my support, and now I'll bring it back. Okay, so rib support is upside down from the shoulder girdle. So our rib support from our hands will have it's very hard to show. It will have our thumbs supporting the lower ribs, our pointing fingers, the middle finger, the mid upper. I mean, it's not helping, right? Middle finger, the mid upper. I can't really show it. I guess I can. Lower ribs are thumbs. Pointing fingers are lower. Middle fingers are quite mid, and the small fingers are way up with the top ribs. So what that means is in something like this, where if you watch me, I'm going to use this simple turning posture with support to turn and use my ribs as support. So I could do this just around my shoulder. I'm not going to hurt myself. I could do that. Or alternately, I can take down and use these ribs as a primary part of the support at the same time. So I take my thumb to the low rib to begin to support that movement. My thumb to the low ribs on the underside, thumb to the low ribs, contain, and then moving up, pointing finger, middle finger, and outer fingers as I rise up. Are you with me? Okay, so here, let's start by not using the ribs as part of the support at all. Don't even use the ribs. Take your thumb, your pointing finger, your middle finger, the palm of your hand, your shoulder blades on your back, everything's pretty good. And then just start to turn like you're going to turn open and keep that connection through the shoulder girdle. It's not bad, right? But is it really strong enough to be really supported when you turn? That's the question. See what you feel. Is it strong enough? Or do you need those lower ribs relating with the thumb, and then a little higher, the pointing finger, the middle ribs, the middle finger, the small two fingers, the top, all the way through your shoulder girdle? Yeah? Yeah, good. Stay with it. Look at it a little bit more. Good. So that's a rotation here. And what you're exploring is using the underside, arm, shoulder, girdle, and ribs to support your turn. And we're looking at both. We're looking at how to differentiate these aspects, and we're looking at how to bring them together into one supportive family. Beautiful. Rest a little. Let's play with how this applies in some other asana situations. So we're going to bring this into a lunge and some upward reaching in lunges. We'll also be exploring Ustrasana. So you want to set yourself up with whatever kinds of props you might want for that. I'm going to use a couple of blocks. And one of the good reasons for the blocks is I'm going to ask you to be able to place your hands down for support while you are in a lunge, right? So if the blocks aren't high enough for that, find a chair. You could also use a chair for Ustrasana when we get to that if you prefer. All right. So let's start with I'm going to start with my blocks. I'm going to keep the blocks out there for downward dog, which actually is kind of interesting because it does change things, right? So we'll start by coming into a downward dog, and I'll instruct with the blocks, but of course you can be using any kind of prop or lack of prop that you want. So coming out over the blocks or the ground, I'm playing here with how this goes. How this goes. How far through can I feel this support? And then bring it on up into downward facing dog. Now there's a journey here. As you come to step your right foot up into a lunge, there's a journey around the shoulders, right? So you feel that? Take that journey around the shoulders. Feel what you're doing as you do it, and step your right foot up. All right, I'm turning my blocks on the higher side, and then bring the knee down and rest down into your lunge. Take your hands, your blocks a little bit closer to your hip side so that you can place your hands on your blocks. I'm just looking for my Zoom thing. There it is. All right, so with your hands on your blocks, you have the opportunity to pulse into them. So I don't want to be up here right now. That's just me. You may be perfectly fine up here, but for me, it's too much for me right now in the front of my left hip. So I'm going to come down here, right? And then my exploration, as is yours, wherever you are, is yielding and pushing into that and allowing that to pulse levity up in and through all of what we're working here. Right up in and through the shoulder girdle. And then come down again a little bit, no matter how high you are, come down a little bit so that you have space in these back low ribs. And then again, do the same thing, only this time, as you're bringing the shoulder girdle up and pulsing, also fill from the bottom to the mid to the top with the ribs. So even if you weren't bearing weight, even if you just had your arms down here, there would still be the relationality. That's what we're talking about here. This leads to a sense of overall whole body pranic cellular tone. What Bonnie is teaching right now, calling it postural tone. It's just whole body awake, alive cells. You know, we're sneaking up on them. All right, let's take the blocks down. We'll step back into downward dog again to change the sides. You could do anything you want if you wanted to come through a little bit more of a vinyasa here. You can certainly do it. You can see where chaturanga and upward dog have definitely require all of this. And then you're back. All right, and let's step the left foot up with an inhale and a yield down of the right with an exhale. Find a good spot for your blocks. Make a connection and play with it. Can it be useful for you to play with your thumb, the low ribs, and the pectoralis at the same time? The thumb, the low ribs, the pectoralis at the same time, right? A differentiation and isolation in that. One side, the other. So you can see this is very, very different from positioning your shoulder blades somewhere on your back, right? Very, very different from rotating an arm outward or inward. It's a pulsing organization. Again, I'm going to repeat. It's a way to work toward this understanding and embodiment of whole body, cellularly alive and awake tone. All right, here we go. Come on down. Take your blocks, and I do recommend that you go through something like a chaturanga or knees, chest, and chin so that you can feel how important these supports are. If you want, you can take your knees down, but lower down more like a chaturanga. Feel it? And then as you're sweeping through to an upward dog, realizing that the supports ripple through. They ripple through you. Muscles don't just go boom, boom, boom. They ripple. And then all the way back. Downward dog. Good. Take your right foot up and yield the knee down. All right, now in this case, we're going to take the arm up. So bring your right hand to your thigh and let's reach out forward and up with the left. But let's do it with what we're doing here. We've got the thumb and the low rib. We're filling. We've got the mid ribs and the mid finger into the joint. We've got the small finger and the ring finger as the point of the shoulder blade slides down your back. They're connected. The palm of your hand facing forward up there, right? We've always been having this palm face forward. Everyone always turns it the other way. The palm facing forward has always been a representation and an invitation to feel the shoulder blade on your back. You want to bring it into a twist? Here we go. Inhale. Now spin and spin through those small fingers. That's your back shoulder blade. Small finger, ring finger. Spin as you reach. You feel the spin go up the spiral of your forearm? Feel it? The spiral of your forearm, the reach. Inhale again. And as you're exhaling, hook if you like. Now in the hook, you get a lot of stability. You feel that? So if you can hook, go ahead and do it. And if not, just bring your hand to the floor or your block, straighten the back leg, and you can use the same stability pushing into the earth with that underside hand to turn as you can with the hook of your elbow. That underside arm, whichever one, the hook or on the ground, doesn't matter. Either way, you're enlivening the top lobe lung right underneath the front top and the back top of the shoulder girdle area. Here we go. Bring it around. Inhale. Place your blocks. If you'd like to explore more with the deep support, exhale, knees, chest, chin, or chaturanga. Inhale, sweeping through. Follow the sensation. Follow the ripples. Don't hurry. And all the way back. Adho Mukha. And the other side. Step it up and go down. And yield down. Point your foot away, hand onto the left thigh, and as the right is rising, feel what you're doing as you do it. There's no one right way to do it, but the connections want to be there. The palm, the open of the palm up there. The open of the palm. You feel that? The cup of the open palm, right in the arc. All right, now let's twist. So to twist, you don't just bring your arm up. You go the whole thing, all the way from the lower shoulder blade up through the cup of that right blade into your back, and then the spiral from the small finger side. The spiral from the small finger side as the axial border of your shoulder blade slides long and the very bottom point slides tailward until you're ready. You hook if you can, because it's really, really helpful to feel the options of the deep compressive support. But if you don't, you just bring your hand down to the floor and spin that way. Also super good. Good, and here we go. Bring it down. Place your hands and your vinyasa of choice, playing with this. Notice when you're in your plank how it's much more effective to support your body from underneath here with the front of your chest and those front muscles and so on than it is to hang from your back. Exhale, knees, chest, chin, or chaturanga, sweeping through. Tail stays lively. Roll it up. Fill the lower ribs in the back. And exhale, Adho Mukha. All right, down onto your knees. And any kinds of supports that you like here. We are going to take Ustrasana. So I'm going to use the blocks back here to take my hands down on. You can choose your best medicine. That's what I'm going to do right now. You don't necessarily need anything back there. But let's take a moment. So I'm just sitting just right between my heels. You can, any of the kneeling postures, Virasana, Vajrasana, variation of those is fine. And let's come up onto your knees. So here we go, kneel standing. Take your hands and bring your hands, so this is an internal spinning. As you bring your arms around behind, it is, yes, it is an internal rotation up here, but it's not this. That would be just moving my arm in the socket. Not terrible. But an internal rotation that won't ever shear is going to have a little bit of the movement of the joints around it too. You see? Not here and here, but here. Can you do it? Make sure that everything's moving. If you just make sure, that's what your body wants to do. Just make sure everything is, in fact, being allowed to move. We're going to check in with the embryological spirals after this, and that fuels all of this as well. So bringing them around and bringing your hands onto the two pelvic bones there, and your thumbs right in there, just either on the sacrum or just above the sacrum, either way. And then pulse down with the pointing finger ball into the meat right below the edge of the pelvic bone there. Pointing finger ball and thumb, pulse. Pointing finger, ball, and thumb. And as you do, let the pulse come up through your inner arm into the front chest. Take the middle finger and activate it as well and firm the top of your arm bones in to join the pulsing. Keep drawing your elbows toward one another. And then if you like, you can turn your toes under. That's another way to get your hands down easily, right? Or use your blocks or go to the floor, whatever. And then here we go. So you're going to go down with the legs and the pelvis, receive the pubis, keep the tail free. As you're inhaling, you'll slide up through the core, but don't push anything forward. You slide up through a thick core and then wait for it. Gently squeeze the elbows in, broadening across the top chest and allowing the pectoralis to feel a little bit of a pull, but don't push your chest up. Just broaden it and then lean back slightly. And then lean back more and allow your head to start going with the journey back. Let your heart rest right there in the cup of your upper spine. Feel your shoulder blades, in this case, sculpting onto your back and pulsing from the back. That's where you're getting the support now, right? The back shoulder blades are pulsing. They're holding that top load long. Maybe you're at a point now where you can take your hands down and then push with your hands into whatever it is you're touching to stabilize back all the way up, Ustrasana. Never still, but never just undulating around either. We're here. Not never undulating around, but not now. What I mean is just not randomly. Now, you're going to come up, so bring your hands back onto your back and use the thumb, pointing finger, middle finger, small finger, and the underside of your palm into the shoulder girdle. Inhale and come up, and exhale, have a seat. Rest here. Dolphin. Small finger is under. Place your elbows and lay your forearms down. Rock forward and back and feel. Now the support is traveling all the way through the spirals of your forearms as well. Your forearms are solid on the earth, and the bones, including your wrists, spin the prana as it comes through. When you're ready, yield deeply and push into the earth, tail rising, dolphin, and just stay here. 10 breaths or so. Feeling here that now what you're doing is you've turned it upside down, right? So you've got the tip of your top chest now facing straight to the earth. So the whole top cone is being supported from the back upper, the front upper, and the central upper of the shoulder blade. Even as you have your outer wrists on the floor and your small pinky side, you still are supporting primarily from way up in the tip top portion of the shoulder girdle and your lung and heart there. The small finger and the ring finger toward the earth are supporting into the edges of the blade, and lower down and rest. You can rest in Virasana or you can rest in child's posture. All right, be where you can see the screen pretty well. We're just going to do a little bit about these embryological spirals, because once you see how these anatomical connections happen, then when you bring in the embryological spiral, you really can feel the unification of the whole thing. All right, so I'm going to attempt to show you, and you can do them with me. So an upper limb spiral, your little arms grew, they grew, so do this with me. They grew, they were way on your back, and they grew from, first that came out is your fingers. So the fingers grew out, right? They just poke out, and you've got these little fingers way in the back body. So the spiral of growth itself starts stabilized on your back. So that common instruction, stabilize your shoulder blades on your back, it's not all wrong. It's not wrong, but maybe a little bit limited. So, but do stabilize this growing pranic field, this growing pranic reach of desire that is becoming one of your limbs of action, right? Let that be stable on your back. All right. Now, what happens? This little guys are coming out, your little fingers, sensitive, and they start to come forward. So I'll just do one at a time. So they start to come forward, and it's like that. Okay? Okay, so it's from up here, and it's stable back there. I'll indicate with my fingers. And it starts to, it travels forward on your body, from your back body to your front body, and it's a little bit of an internal rotation as it goes. So this is what happens first. Now the little fingers are there, and the space draws them. They have curiosity, they want to go. They've come around, stable on the back, come around here, and they start to come into an external rotation as they proceed from there, all the way out and through like a flipper, a very simple flipper. So, have to think of it somehow. We have to think stable on the back, internal rotation at the top, and external rotation as it grows. It's okay. We have to. We have to have a framework so we can think and go back and rediscover. Okay, so if you didn't do one arm, do it with me now. We'll do both arms. So you're way back there, way back there on your back, and then take this hand here, and it starts to travel forward. It's this little hand. It's not just internally rotating, Abigail. It travels and rolls. It travels and rolls. We call it an internal rotation. It's just rolling around. It travels and rolls. And as it rolls past about what is now your deltoid, no further, and remember, it's just a hand. As it rolls there, then it decides, oh, yeah, okay, that's enough. Now we're just going to go out. And it's basically what we would think of as an external rotation. So that same side without the touch, you're way back here. You come up and around, you're growing, and then you're reaching. Your little limb is coming out into existence. Let's do the other side. You're way in the back, handy, and then start to journey forward. Journeying forward. Oh, it's forward now. Okay, here we go. I'm going to come around and just continue. Oh, just a flipper. When this is happening, you're just going, the sensing in the water, reaching to where? You don't know. Reaching the space, reaching through the space and the water. So you're here, you're back, you're rolling around, you're forward, and then it grows. It actually grows in little stops and starts. The mesenchyme is growing into the space. Seriously, part of it will grow, and then another space will grow, and then the structure will grow into the space. The space calls the structure. So, how does this apply in your anatomical movement? Well, if we're going to do the same exact thing, of placing your hands, because you should keep it simple to feel, right? You got to keep it simple. Where is it? Keep it simple. So if I'm going here, I guess I should go at a diagonal for you. So if I'm going here, and I'm not going to do this every time, but I am going to let my arms journey and come forward and plant. I'm here, or I reach, I reach, but I'm still stable on my back. That's the prana saying, you're right here, Patty, the person, the Patty person. You're here. The you person. I'm here. And I have this ability to reach. So here I go. I'm reaching. That's the spiral that grew it. The mind of the spiral of the limbs of action. All right. So that may be something that some of you want to continue to work with on your own, more the embryological spirals. And certainly, certainly I'm interested in them. All right, let's come up to standing. I want to explore also how our limbs are relating to our heart in movement. So you can just take your hands to your heart as you're standing and feel for this. So this is the organ and the center up here, the hub of these upper limbs, the heart chakra, the air center. Air flows in water. The H2O, water, the hydrogen is lighter than the air in the water. The air is most of the weight of water. So air isn't actually like, air is, you know, gravity's having its way with air because air is a little bit heavy. So here you are. Maybe a little heavier than you think. And maybe you know something about these spirals of the heart, that your heart is a spiral, that it has come together, as we know, like this, and it's wrapped around itself, and that its function is pumping out through the circulatory system, not unlike the way our limbs and everything have grown from our core. So how do we incorporating the physical stability that we need with the underlying templates of healthy and deep consciousness flow, the embryological uh, spirals. How do we incorporate all of that with the heart as its center hub? Well, we do it with ease. We sculpt these things out and then we begin to move with them. So let's do it. Just easy. This is Anjali Mudra. Anjali Mudra. Now, when Anjali Mudra, so if you go back body, front body, and touch, you've got the embryological spiral. You've got back, you've got, and then touch, embryological spiral. Why do these look just like dancing Shiva? We've got heart relating to wrists and forearms at the level of our bones and glandular connections. Let's play with that. So the wrists and forearms are going to spiral as we open. Watch. The spiral of the heart. All of these movements support one another. None of them are deterring the other. They're all part of the same dance, different aspects of the same dance. The spirals of the forearm and the heart, the forearm, the wrist, and the heart, like the reach. So we keep this ease, and at the same time, we can have the fiery strength of it, and we can have the stern support or the soft, loving support, all available here. Anjali, exhale. You play with it. You can release your arms down. You can play with me just a little bit. And then this spinning, 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 and you reach up. Where does that come from? And as you're exhaling, you have so many tools. How are you going to release your arms down here? Many different ways. There's not one way. Do it again. Reach out. Come up. And then what if it's a Surya half? Anjali Mudra, exhale. As you're inhaling, so many ways to do it. Extra breath maybe, and exhaling over. Inhale, slide out. You can support with your hands, right? Exhale, yield down. And then from the curling in, into the opening and the reaching. And Anjali Mudra again. Good. Then step out wide. So if you're going to take something like an arms behind your back in this, right? So you've got shoulder blades, you've got internal, but internal, this is another key to be really, really careful about because we have this linear way of thinking. Somebody will take an internal and then an external. All right, watch this very carefully. Do not go internal, external. It's directional. All of these spirals are directional. Anything is going to be directional. That's like a huge, huge key in yoga, that everything has to follow prana flow. And prana flow doesn't just cross your body. Okay, so a spiral goes here directionally, and then if I can't just keep going that way, I pulse back. So I have room to then go that way. And then I'll pulse back. So I have room to go that way. Do you see what I'm saying? This is absolutely key. Tell me that you know. Tell me that you get it. All right, so you're going to take your hands behind, which means you can use any of these things. You can use the first stuff we worked with, the bones and the muscles. It works perfectly well. Or you could be with this stable the embryological, the spiral, the growing, the pulsing, and the clasp and slide. Now, as you're here, as you get, it's going to be Prasarita Padottanasana 3. As you're here, play around a little bit. What do you got? So many options. Inhale, peek up. Now, in your peek up, can you play with getting just a little, giving just a little bit of space? Don't pull on it, but a little bit of space to where the collarbones and the manubrium join, just to remind the discs to stay supple in there. And then here we go. Inhale. And I bent my elbows. I bent my elbows because I don't want to bring them over just straight, straight, straight. I want to have room to move again. Inhale. And as you're exhaling, up, out, and over. Doesn't need to be one movement. It could be. It can be just micro movements, or they could be larger. You see? Yeah, stay with it. Couple more breaths. And coming up, same thing. Avoid the hinging that you think you don't do, but you might be doing. Avoid it. Find how to slide with your arms. Leave a little space in the joints so that there's room to pulse around and move, and come all the way up. Heel toe together, and you'll stand. Let's just take a glimpse at twisting triangle. I probably won't use the chair, but you can take either one of your feet. Actually, start with your left foot forward, and then I'll give the instructions. Left foot forward and the right leg's back, ready for Parivrtta Trikonasana. And take the right arm up here, and with the arm up, you pulse it, right? You pulse it. And you're going to spin. So you need to pulse, ready to spin, right? Pulsing, ready to spin, and then feather the small fingers around. And as you feather the small fingers around, top ribs, top three ribs, top three ribs, middle finger right in the joint, thumb, lower ribs, thumb, lower ribs, and keep reaching, keep spinning, which leg? There we go. Pointing finger, collarbone, stabilize the collarbone into the manubrium, but let it be mobile. And then when you like, if you like, bring a hand down. Now take this other arm, the up arm, around so that you've got your fingers on your sternum. And begin to turn. The fingers of that up arms touch on the sternum. Reach your tail away. You want to stay pulsing and lengthening in the spine as well. And begin to turn. Feel the underside support into the shoulder girdle. Feel the upper side expansion. And then if you like, extend, open the arm and reach. The arm staying fully connected. Feeling the difference of the stability of the underside, the mobility and the spaciousness of the upper side. And then when you like, bring it down, take your time, change sides, step back, other side. And so your right foot is forward, your left arm is reaching, and as it reaches, you feel this whole slide, this shoulder blade. You're not trying to hold your arm still at your shoulder level. Let everything slide all the way back to the tail, and then feather the outer small fingers there, side of the scapula, bottom angle of the scapula, your thumb and your pointing finger, the low ribs on that underside, right? The middle finger, that's the mid ribs. Gives you a lot of elasticity and pulse. And then the hand comes down as you support into the chair, the earth, whatever. Push and feel the front, top, and sides of the top shoulder there as you ready to open the upper arm. And here we go with an exhale, bringing it down. Resolve your posture in whatever way you came into it. Step up, Tadasana, and standing, simple standing, allowing the remnants of your supports to remain. The idea is creating a situation where this kind of pulsing, awake, alive, layered, is available to conscious recognition, conscious embodiment. Why? Because it takes us quite deep, takes us deep into the reservoirs of radiance, consciousness. All right, come on down, have a seat. We're going to take a seated twist. So it'll be Marichyasana 3, seated twist. And if you like, have a blanket for your hips, of course. And if you don't like, just sit. And just Dandasana to begin here. We're going to bring this in a bit of an order. We're going to bring in the stability of the ribs, the mobility, then the stability of the ribs, the mobility of the ribs, the mobility of the shoulder girdle, and then the mobility of the heart. So we'll be building the posture consecutively in that way. So finding yourself at neutral, and at neutral, check in, Dandasana, check in with anywhere that you might be developing any gripping, and see if you can manage that in any way you normally would. And then I've got my left leg, I'm going to bring my left leg in and hug the leg in to sit up. So this is just the stability aspect of the posture. I'm using my arms to stabilize into the top chest, my arms and hands into the ribs as well. And as you sit and you breathe here, you'll be able to differentiate and feel all of the ribs and how they are all stable, all the way back into the spine and all the way around and forward into their cartilages and their joints to the sternum and the manubrium, the whole thing. All right? Stable. Now we're going to start to turn. So bring the one hand, the right hand, and hold your leg and take the left hand behind you. The first thing we're going to turn with are the ribs. So we can use the hands pushing to connect our ribs. I'm using this hand on the ground to rotate from my ribs, to turn in toward my twist from my ribs. Feels fine. The ribs arc around one side and the other separately, differentiating from the front chest all the way back to the spine, and then from the spine all the way around to the front chest. Feels quite good. Everything's fine. The hands, especially that back hand where I'm up on tense, I can really feel all of those ribs with the touch of that hand. Now, from here, the shoulder girdle. So start with the back shoulder girdle. Yield and push through the hand and spin that top front chest, and back top chest. Shoulder girdle region. This front arm is still quite a bit of a stabilizer, right? You feel that? And you're also stabilizing there, for me, much stronger than I am in the back. But for you, it might be different. Now you're going to go to the heart. So you've differentiated here. You got a lot of separation. Now your heart's right inside in the center. And to turn from your heart, you go right to the hub. And maybe you'll end up softening your hand a little bit. I did. But I'm also going to end up going quite a bit further as I allow myself to spin from the heart at the center. And here we go, coming back around. Inhale, collect it back. Feel what you're doing. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Just feel what you're doing, and you're back around Dandasana. You feel the difference on the sides, certainly. Let's take the other side. So you're bending now your right leg and hugging in, stabilizing. Go into the ribs themselves and feel their toning, specifically each side, one thoracic half all the way around through the ribs and into the spine in the back. And then the other side all the way around and into the spine in the back, organized by the sternum and the cartilage at the front. Just stable ribs. And we're going to turn with the ribs. So the left hand will hold the outside of your leg and the right hand goes down. The fingers are a little tense. Thumb, low rib. Pointing finger, a little bit up. Middle finger, mid ribs. Ring finger, a little bit higher. And small finger, top ribs. Yield and push into the earth and turn from the ribs. All right, now we're going to turn more. We're going to turn from the shoulder girdle. So again, you can use your hand in the same way. Thumb, coracoid process, pointing finger, spine of scapula, and collarbone. Middle finger, the shoulder joint. Use those. The small fingers stabilize your spine on your Shoulder blade on your back. Take a big inhale and exhale. Turn further from the shoulder girdle. Stable, strong, and underlyingly alive and mobile. Now here we go, the heart. As you're ready, soften right into the center. Maybe you can feel the membranes that wrap your heart in there and how they will slide within the lung. They will. When you're ready, play with it. Inhale, and as you're exhaling, spin right around the fulcrum of your heart and breathe. And then here we go. As you're ready again, inhale and come back. And Dandasana. We're going to finish before Shavasana in Viparita. So you'll be coming down onto your back. You could take a half shoulder stand if you don't feel like rummaging around and finding a block. You could take your hips on a block, bolster, or legs up the wall, or shoulder stand. But I want you to turn upside down, and also whatever it is you're doing, if it's shoulder stand or Viparita, you're going to just get your shoulder blades under on the two sides as we normally would for this. So it's not full shoulder blade wide. They're tucked under, and that will give a nice support as you come up. Choose any of the heights of your block. Doesn't matter that much, whatever you feel like right now. And then allow your legs to, feet come off the floor and extend them straight up. In this posture, we are washing all of the intensity of the inquiry and the work that we've done here in this upper body. Lots and lots of deep patterns here, lots and lots of deep gifts to be revealed. So in this finishing posture, really releasing, really allowing yourself to rest in your Viparita Karani. I'm releasing the posture, but you stay in it for a few moments, minutes, unless it is not comfortable for you. Please stay, and then we'll take Shavasana soon. Use your exhalations to allow your mind to calm. Let it go. As you feel the fluids flowing downward in your Viparita Karani, imagine, notice, and feel that that fluid flow is washing away any effort, any perceived need to remember, because you do not need to remember. Your body has it. Allow the softening that a long, full exhale offers you. And also notice the bright of the inhale. Good. Now you can bring your legs back down, touch, and lift your pelvis up off of your block if you were in Viparitkrani. And let's begin the melt of Shavasana. Lay your body out comfortably. And as you do, feel the earth's invitation to release. Have you noticed that it is an invitation? Are you willing to yield to that invitation to be held, to be supported, even to be loved? It wouldn't be so crazy to allow yourself to be loved by the earth. Why not? Offer yourself and see what you find. Give up the trying and the expectations for reward. Offer yourself to the earth and see if perhaps you receive. Good. Take your time and nice and easy, slow, no hurry. Bring yourself out of Shavasana and you can come on up to seated where you began to finish in Anjali Mudra.